Hello and welcome to a new part from the Power Platform Security series. As before, I split up this section into two short videos. In this video, we will have a look at some kind of theory or introduction first, especially about VNETs. And then in the second part, we will have a look at the detailed configuration and how to set things up. So let's start with the introduction. And here I prepared a couple of questions. So first question is, hey, what is an Azure Virtual Network? What is a VNET? And well, it is a kind of a tool that allows different resources to securely communicate with each other. If you have never seen that, I would recommend having a look at this Microsoft Learn site. This is a video, I think it's around 2 minutes. It gives you really a great overview. Next question, why would I need a VNet? Especially if I'm dealing with Power Platform. Well, it allows you to communicate in a very secure manner between Power Platform, other Azure services, or your on-prem services. And the question is, hey, why do we need that? Well, you know, if you use the Power Platform, the communication is over the public internet. And to avoid this, to have a very secure environment, you can use VNet. And yeah, things are basically encapsulated within your private network, and no other person who does not have access to that cannot access your data. Then next question is, what is a subnet? When you talk about VNet, you always hear about subnet. Well, it's a smaller part of a virtual network. And here's a nice graphic that's also from the video. So you see here the virtual network, and inside we have two subnets here where you have your resources. So, for example, storage accounts, key vaults or something like that. Okay, then what is subnet delegation? And why should I care about it? So when you have your subnet and your VNet, we use Azure Subnet Delegation. What is the meaning? Well, we kind of delegate a subnet to the Power Platform. So in this subnet, you can only use the connection to your Power Platform, no other service. And with the help of the subnet delegation, we process requests at runtime. And what helps us with that is a Windows container that uses the IP of the delegated subnet. Again, here I have some info, but in a second I will show you a picture. And of course, what is also important is that the IPs, that's what I mentioned, the IPs within that subnet are reserved for the Power Platform. So you cannot use any other service. Let me show you a picture, and that's what you can find on Microsoft Learn. So here in the middle, we have this container where you use Dataverse, plugins, connectors. You see here in gray the delegated subnet. And then you can communicate inside of this VNet with your resources. Of course, I mean, if you want to connect to other services that you have in other VNets, then you can use VNet peering. But you have to establish that. It's not VNets are not automatically connected. You have to establish that. Or if you want to talk with on-premise networks, then you can use ExpressRoute and make the services or data available to your Power Platform tools in a very secure manner. Here's another picture. Again, in the middle, we focus here on the red part. That's the VNet. In the VNet, we have this injected Windows container with your plugins, with your connectors. You see here in light gray the delegated subnet. And then you can communicate here with your resources. But I mean, if you set up a VNet for an environment, this does not mean that everything else is restricted. And that's the bottom of this picture. So you can have flows, Power Apps that communicate over the public internet with some connectors, for example, for the weather or something. If you say, okay, that's not something I need to protect, then this is fine. But for other services, and that's what is highlighted in red here, you want to make sure that nobody accesses the data, for example, from your key vault or from your blob storage. Yeah? And then we have a kind of limitation on the regions. And this is something you have to be very careful about. Later, when we come to the setup, I will show you details. Yeah? So here are the regions that are supported. Check it out. Yeah? And then we have services that are supported. And at the moment, these are the services. Yeah? So for example, you have SQL servers, Key Vault, file, blob storage, custom connectors, and so on. Yeah? Next question is, what is the recommended subnet size? That's also taken from the Microsoft Learn site, and you should read it here from this column. So if you have a high traffic, lots of volume that goes through, then you should not connect more than 3 to 5 environments. If you have less traffic, for example, data that you need from your Key Vault or from a blob storage, then you can connect more, of course. And well, how do we connect to internet sources? And well, by default, inside of this container, inside of this VNet, there's no internet access. But if you need it, then you can configure a network address translation, a NET gateway. That's illustrated here. So here we have our virtual network. Here we have the subnets, and then you just configure that if you want to communicate with the internet. So in case you need that. And then here are some best practices. These are not specific for VNets, but in general, what should you do to restrict the outbound traffic? Here, for example, you can use a firewall. You can use network security groups within your VNets. Of course, you can use private endpoints. Then you can use the monitoring and traffic auditing tools that we have inside of Azure. We have Sentinel, we have the Azure Network Watcher, and so on. And of course, Azure policies and firewall rules, they help you to protect your systems. Okay, so that's it for the first part, for this short introduction about VNets, why we need it, why it's important, what you have to look out for. And I will show you the setup and configuration in the second part. But for today, that's it what I wanted to share. Thanks for watching and listening, and then looking forward to seeing you in the second part.